Well, good morning and welcome back to day 5 of Support Independent Conservative Media. Today, we're going to talk about the hard word. This word is very difficult. We're going to talk about censorship. Again, this is day 5 of Support Independent Conservative Media Week, and I've got a message for you. You don't fight propaganda with whispers because silence, it's not safety, that's surrender. And folks, we are surrounded by people who are waving white flags. Now, censorship in 2025 doesn't look like black bars over newspapers. It looks like algorithm suppression, shadow bans, the fact checker overlays, sudden community guideline violation. Who hasn't experienced that suddenly that you are violating community guidelines that appear right when your message starts to gain a little traction, right? Ask yourself, why did and do vaccine skeptics disappear overnight? Why? Why do Christian commentators get demonetized while drag shows for kids are featured in the YouTube's Pride playlist? Why does a tweet quoting the Constitution get flagged as hate speech? Because power doesn't fear facts. It fears facts that spread. And let's just be plain here. Independent conservative voices are systematically targeted, not because we lie, but because we tell the truth too early. And the truth is dangerous to liars. You know, the wife and I were coming home from church yesterday, and we're talking. As we often do, we talk about 5 years ago. What we were experiencing, with COVID. And if you look back, it seems like all of the people who were getting demonetized, who were getting dragged, who were getting canceled, go for it. Ivermectin, mask mandates, vaccine mandates, on and on and on. The people who pushed back, a lot of them, in a lot of ways, were right. Vaccine harm, a lot of those folks were right. And they were not only demonetized, they were demonized. And by whom? By big tech, by media, by some of y'all. So maybe they were telling the truth a little early. Because a lot of, again, the vaccine harm and some of the other things that we went through back in 2020 turned out to be true. And that truth is dangerous to people who are lying to you. You hear me? It's dangerous for people who are trying to lie to you. I know a lot of people who are like, you know what? I don't want to get involved in all that. I'm going to stay out of it. So here's what the cowards, I know that's a harsh word, and the fence sitters don't get. Every time you stay out of it, you hand the battlefield over to the other side. Every time you mute yourself to keep a job, to keep a friend, to keep a peace, you empower tyranny. Silence doesn't just protect you, it feeds them. They thrive on your fear. What they know is, it is sort of this social terrorism. This social terrorism because they know that you are terrified to say anything. Part of the cool part about being older is that you got a story for just about everything. Um, the job I just left. Now, before I get with the story, I loved my job there. I had a great time. I met some super people, guests and ambassadors. I mean, people I work with, some great people. And I don't miss the job necessarily, but I do miss them. I do miss those people. I do miss some of my favorite guests. I miss Paulie and Maggie and Gertz and Gail, you know, and Ashley and Prince. I Prince, yes, Prince. So I miss y'all. I do. I do. I do. But the job, not, the mechanics of it, not particularly. And right now it's 4,000 degrees there. It's hotter. Actually, it's hotter than that because it's hotter than the surface of the sun there. So I don't miss that standing for 6 hours. But in any case, there were a lot of people who went through there, as is typical in that kind of job, that were, I don't know, all over the socio-political spectrum. It was pretty good. A year, that was pretty good. All over the socio-political spectrum. And for a lot of people, they didn't realize, because I'm decked out in this, that I wasn't necessarily on the same part of the spectrum that they're on. So when the national anthem was played every day at park opening, I stopped talking. I took my hat off. I faced the flag. I stood at attention every time because I needed people to know. But the other things that were going on, there were people there who were gay, people there who were trans, all the stuff, all the stuff. It was the United Nations, the United Nations of socio-political whatever. Now, again, like I just said when I started the story, I met some great people, but there were people there who were using some of that and battering people over the head with it, kind of daring anybody to say anything. Because if you say something, you're going to end up in HR, right? You're going to end up in some sort of battle, and people don't want that. People generally want peace. They want to live a peaceable life, especially when they don't care about you enough to fight with you. So I saw that. That's not what got me out. It's not. It isn't. Really, it isn't. It's just, it was the standing for 6 hours on this hip. That's and getting the inflammation in my feet. That's what got me out. But it was interesting to see, and where I noticed that sort of socio-political terrorism, especially when the system was going to be on their side and you knew it. It kept people quiet. It kept people from expressing their beliefs and their thoughts. It made environments like that. A lot of you work in environments like that. It makes it impossible to say, you know what? I believe that God created man and woman. I don't believe that God made mistakes when He made you a man. I don't believe that God made a mistake when He created you to be a woman. I don't think so. I think that biologically, you can only be a male or a female, unless you are saying that you've got some sort of genetic defect that you can prove. Not just like you've always wanted to play with trucks, or you've always wanted to be a princess. Not enough. Those are social things. No. So, although you and I can have that discussion here, I don't know a workplace in America that you could sit down in the break room and have that discussion and be on my side of the argument and keep your job. Social political terrorism, frightening people into silence. So what happens is people decide, well, I'm just going to sit this one out. The problem is that this country was built by people who were loudmouths and had everything to lose, including their lives, and spoke up. Today, we've got conservatives with 100,000 followers on every platform who are terrified to say what they really think because Facebook may throttle my page. It may cost them money. Grow up. We're not on a social club. We are, like we said years ago, we are in a culture war.
Our next step, because it is sexy to think about the federal government. I was having a conversation with one of our patrons around here that if we can't clean up our own house in the buildings that are right around us, we stand no chance of dealing with Washington. So let's clean up our own house first.
So we have to take the gloves off. We don't have any choice. The censorship regime is not a bug. Some sort of thing that's kind of wrong that you can fix. No, it's a feature. It's something that comes with the thing. Big tech, legacy media, academia, and indeed the federal government. Yes, including your favorite centrist bureaucrats. Centrist have built a system designed to drown you in noise. Label dissent as misinformation. You ever had a post? Ever see a post that was labeled misinformation? That's designed to keep truth on a leash. You remember the Twitter files? And people who talked about the Twitter files beforehand were called conspiracy theorists. Conspiracy theorists, right? And what we learned is once Elon Musk took over and we got the files, everything that people had been saying was true. Everything that people have been saying about the connection between government and Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. Or Facebook and Instagram are the same thing. Twitter, all the same. All true. All of it was true. You remember what happened to Parler? Yeah, Parler was going to be the anti-Twitter until it wasn't, right? Do you remember how a sitting U.S. president got booted from every platform? A sitting U.S. president. Are you kidding me? Potentially, ostensibly the most powerful person in the world got booted off of Facebook, got booted off of Twitter, while terrorists still have their accounts. Terrorists, real live, dyed-in-the-wool terrorists still have their accounts. You think that's an accident? It's not about safety. It's about control. They fear you not because you're dangerous. They fear you. They fear us because we're effective. All right. Censorship is not just digital. We've seen a lot of digital censorship. It's personal. Kind of like the story I told you. That socio-political terrorism. That's doctors and pharmacists who lost their licenses for challenging COVID orthodoxy. As teachers fired for refusing pronoun pledges. Yes, I will call little Johnny zit and they and ogle if that's their preferred pronoun. Teachers who said, I'm not doing that. That's dumb. And we've talked about this in previous episodes. Ask the parents who got labeled domestic terrorists for speaking at school board meetings. Now, this is no longer theoretical. Lives have been ruined, careers destroyed, families torn apart. just for telling the truth. And still, too many people sit in silence, hoping to be left alone. But let me tell you, and listen to me carefully, none of us are going to be left alone. You either. No matter how quiet, docile, and harmless you seem to be, none of us will be left alone. The only way to survive any of this is to stand up, speak out, and support those who do the same. That's why support Independent Conservative Media Week matters. We speak what others whisper. I won't say it all. Here's the bottom line, folks. Censorship thrives where courage dies. And freedom dies when people go quiet. They just nod along. Don't just like and share. Please write, podcast. You can do this. Support others who are in the fight. And if you're not sure how to start by funding voices like this one. Subscribe, donate, spread the word. Because if we lose our voice now, we may never get it back. My name is Willie Lawson. It's been the Morning Report. Today's is not just any other episode. It's a warning shot, a wake-up call. You don't fight propaganda with whispers. You fight it with a roar. Let's be that roar.